Hello vinyl community, this is Tommy in North Carolina, and I had no plans at all to make a recent finds video, but I have had a really good week, and I hope you all have as well. And so I wanted to share with you guys some of my adventures and the things that I found while on those adventures. Now the first thing, if you guys follow the face group YouTube vinyl community page, I shared this there, but I want to share it with you guys as well. This is the coffee table book, Dust and Grooves, Adventures in Record Collecting by Elon Paz. I hope I'm pronouncing Elon Paz. And this is a great, nice, thick book that has all kinds of great photos and interviews and different people sharing and talking about their record collections. And just a really nice book. I had been looking at it ever since it came out, but it has a retail tag of $50 on it. Well, I work in an office park that is nearby to a Barnes & Noble, and so I usually can walk to Barnes & Noble on my lunch break and just kind of glance through the store. And I always check the bargain section because you can always find some great autobiographies and biographies and music books and things like that. And so me being a cheapskate, I will pick things up. Well, Tuesday I went in on my lunch break and found this on the shelf with a bargain tag of $12.98. And I actually had a coupon, and I'm a member at Barnes & Noble, so I managed to pick this up for $10. I think it was $9.99 after all my discounts. So really glad to get this. It's a great book to have. And so if you have a Barnes & Noble near you and are able to get to one, they're not available online. So I think the only way to get one is to physically walk in and buy one, and definitely worth stopping in. I hope that your store has them in stock. I know some people responded to the Facebook post and said that they were able to find copies as well, so way to go. So the word is out. If you've been wanting that book or if you've been eyeballing it, now's a great time to get it at Barnes & Noble on the bargain price. They may have them at Books A Million as well. I don't know. A lot of times the bargain books kind of interact with both of those, even though they're two separate companies, but they'll get them. But anyway, the next is the stack of records that I've picked up, and just wanted to share them with you guys. And the first one is a couple of records I picked up from a local place that I don't really get to go to very much. It's called Ken's Hi-Fi Clinic in Hendersonville, North Carolina. And I don't get in there nearly as much as I like because he usually closes a little early, and I like to spend some time digging around and things like that. Plus, he charges Discogs prices. His pricing is fair, but if you're on the lookout for cheap stuff, which I usually am, it's probably not the best place to go. But he does have a nice selection of records, and you can usually find stuff that you really want or like. Now, the first one I grabbed was this Elvis TV special soundtrack. This is the soundtrack to the infamous '68 comeback special. And this is a 1977 RCA Black Label. Now, me and my friend Sean in New Orleans, hi Sean, he's a big fan of these Black Label RCAs, as am I. It's a good way to get Elvis records kind of cheap. They came out in '77, I think the year Elvis died, as part of a big reissue campaign. But you can usually find these things in really good shape and for decent prices. And so this one was no exception. And this is the soundtrack to the special. You guys are all familiar with it. The black leather. And it's got those songs like Trouble and Nothingsville, the gospel medley that he did in that special. But also some of the jam session stuff. Where he was doing like Lottie Miss Claudie and some of those old songs. And of course it closes with him singing If I Can Dream, which is what the cover photo is taken from. So, good stuff from Elvis, great music. And the other thing they had, because there's always a search, and I'm as you've been following me this year, I'm on the lookout for Thin Lizzy, XTC, those records. And so on the lookout for this. But I asked Ken when I walked in, I looked through the section, there was no Thin Lizzy in the racks, of course. And I asked him when I went in, I said, do you ever get any Thin Lizzy? And he said, that's really strange because these records are... people are asking for them, and so I don't know what the deal is. There's a demand, and you would think that these would be sort of common records, particularly Jailbreak and those later records. But I'm just not finding them. And Sean's Lock and I actually were talking about that fairly recently as well. Check out his videos, by the way, if you haven't. They're pretty great. And we were talking about how Thin Lizzy seems to be a dried up sort of well right now. It's a black hole for records, and I've been talking to some of my local guys, and they're just not finding them. But I did manage to find this original Live and Dangerous, a double live album featuring, you know, a lot of the big hits, but it's a live recording. It's a great live album. So really, really glad to get another Thin Lizzy in the collection. Still on the lookout for more because they're just not that common. And so this morning, my wife and I got up, and we like to fool around with junk and antique shops as well as Goodwill. And so we went to our local Goodwill, and Goodwills here are really hit or miss, mostly miss because there's so many great record stores. I think a lot of the quality records gets kind of picked over, and then so the Goodwill stores and the thrift stores usually end up with the stuff that nobody really wants. But I do always go through the records, and sometimes I'll find stuff. If you remember a while back, I shared the Dave Brubeck Take 5 album that I picked up, or Time Out album that I picked up, an original copy. Just slipped through the cracks, and I happened to be at the right time. This is the 12-inch maxi single for Do They Know It's Christmas, the Band-Aid all-star Christmas song. This is the American version, or American pressing on Columbia. And, I know everybody remembers this as sort of, the Bob Geldof, we're going to feed the starving children in Africa. It features this classic Peter Blake cover. And, take it or leave it. For $1 at a thrift store, it's in great shape. I'll take it. This is something I had as a kid on 45, and so to have the 12-inch in great shape, that's one to get. And so after we left there, we were just kind of riding around, and I saw a junk shop that we had not been to here in my town, and just went in there and walking around and looking at, the different stuff they had. And it really was a junk shop. But in one of the corners, there was just piles and piles and stacks of records. And so I took to going through them to see what I could find. And, this goes to a question that I can ask. This is why we collectors dig, because there's always some grail or something in there. And so I came out of there with a stack, and I will share it with you. And not all of these are golden records. I don't want to give you the wrong impression. I'm not Naz Nomad, and I'm not finding, this guy, I don't know if you watch his videos, but he always finds great stuff. It seems like he just has, I don't know if he's at the right place, right time, all the time. But he doesn't feel like he is. He's very humble about it. But he's always finding great stuff out in the thrifts. But I'm not that lucky, but occasionally I will. But I'll get started. This was all in the junk shop. And I'll start with these because these are sort of the low end. John Travolta, there was kind of a joke. There was a commercial back in the mid-'90s where there was a John Travolta letter in, which I think was a minor hit for him. This is Sweat Hog John Travolta, pre-Grease, pre-Saturday Night Fever. And so I'm sure these albums are garbage, but it's in good shape, and I grabbed it. And the other one, I got it too, Can't Let You Go. These may or may not be keepers. I cleaned them up, I bagged them up. But on the Midland International label, I didn't show you the other one, but they're pretty much the same. I don't know these records. Like I said, I don't look for them to be that great, but either way. These were found in a junk shop pile. And it was strange because you've got records like that, and you've got your usual standard gospel and country and all that stuff. Adventures in Utopia, Todd Rundgren's band with Roger Powell, Kasim Sultan, and Willie Wilcox, John Wilcox. Again, pretty great shape. This is one I didn't have, and so, for what it is, I'll grab it. These do get progressively better. The next one was this band, The Pursuit of Happiness, which I think is a Canadian band. Some people can let me know. This is the album Love Junk. It came out, I think, 88, around that time. I've never seen it in the wild on the Chrysalis label. And I'll go ahead and show you guys the back cover there. There's the band. Now, this album was produced by Todd Rundgren. I knew this group because the song, I'm an Adult Now, my local rock radio station had that in heavy rotation back when this came out, and I thought it was just a fun, goofy song. So this thing is going to be a good hard rock, power pop type album. But again, found at a junk shop in the middle of Hendersonville. Now we're going to get to some really good stuff. So I ran across this. This is Planet Waves by Bob Dylan, the band. An album that I already actually do have. That is the insert. And so you guys may see where I'm going with this. This is an island copy from the UK. So it is a British pressing of Planet Waves. Very clean shape. This was I think this wrapped around the record. This isn't a sleeve. It was just, like I said, wrapped around the outer jacket there because it's basically the back cover. But really decent shape. It's got the flimsy UK cover, but the album itself, the vinyl, looks really, really nice. So again, there's that one. And it was funny, as I was digging through the records, and my wife, who has probably more patience than anyone should, because she knows when I see stacks of records, I'm going to dig. And she kind of goes, is there anything in there that you think you're going to find? Because, I mean, you know, Conway Twitty for days. Just tons and tons of stuff, the usual fare. And my answer is always the same, that, well, I dig because you might find that Lee Hazelwood record. And sure enough, I must have spoken it into the universe, because I found an original MGM stereo, which I didn't have. I've got an original mono of this. MGM, Lee Hazelwood, Very Special World of Lee Hazelwood. Now, if you watched my Lee Hazelwood video or showcase video where I talk about my Lee Hazelwood collection, you notice that I did have this, the mono copy that I've had a while. It's in one of my prized collections or prized possessions of records, and I also have the Light in the Attic reissue of this. But you know, you find it in the junk shop, and I have this rule: if I see Lee, I buy Lee, particularly original Lee, because you just don't see a lot of Lee Hazelwood out there. The jacket, not in the best shape. There's some wrinkling up here and some cracking on the spine here, but the record looks really, really clean. It looks hardly played, to be honest with you, and that's the thing. Lee sometimes just gets bundled up with like the Eddie Arnold and all those guys, and people that just don't know will throw these records in there, and there he is in a stack in the floor in a junk shop, and there you are. And I got them really cheap. You know, that's the thing. I didn't give a whole lot because they were junk finds, and so that little stack of records was just there. And so always interesting. So we got home from the shop, or from our shopping and eating lunch, and checked the mail. And in the mail was a box from Third Man Records. And I recorded a video of me opening that box live, which we will cut to right now. So fade to me opening that mail. I just got home from thrift shopping, and I got this in the mail from Third Man Records. And it's a Vault. It says Vault, but I didn't order anything from Third Man Records. So the only thing I can think of that this could possibly be is something from Ben Blackwell. Because I usually will comment as a Vault member. I'll comment on some of his posts and his record giveaways. So that may be what this is. And so we're going to find out together what may be in this package. I have no idea. Like I said, I've not ordered anything. So let's take a look and see what this may be. Hey, congrats! You have won Blackwell's Record of the Week. Love, TMR. This is, I think this is a record he was talking about on his Record of the Week. If you're a Vault member, then you know of this young guy, Danny Brams, I believe, and he puts out. He's like a teenager, and he puts out these 45s, or has put out this 45, and so Ben offered to give one away. And so, and you record people know, it's called Good Times, and it's just like Danny Abrams. Danny Abrams, not Danny Bram. Sorry, Danny Abrams. So yeah, it's a kind of a weird kind of do-it-yourself 45, and a lovely note from Third Man. So awesome. So thanks, Third Man. It sometimes pays to be a vault member. Thanks, Ben Blackwell. Welcome back. Isn't that magic how editing works? So that was the other thing. So it was a really, really good day for me, or a good weekend for record finding. You know, I didn't really set out to find any of this stuff, but you know, it's just part of the reason why we collectors dig and try to find the stuff we find. Now, I know and I recognize that not all of that is just you know, fantastic, but the Lee Hazelwood and the Bob Dylan, to me, are just, those are top-notch great finds, especially to find amidst all the other piles of junk. And it was really strange because I saw they had a stereo Buffalo Springfield, but it was only the jacket. There was no record, which kind of broke my heart. You know, and it's funny, I think about it now, I didn't look to see if it was the one that had For What It's Worth on it. I'm not a fan of the stereo mix of that album, but I would like to have one just because. So there's stuff like that, but there was a Let It Be jacket only, no record and sleeve. I've got an original Let It Be, so not a huge deal. And I'll gladly trade those for the Lee anytime you find Lee in the wild, and particularly just hidden away. As a matter of fact, I think pretty much all the Lee Hazelwoods, original Lee Hazelwoods I've ever found, were found in interesting places and not where you'd expect to find them. And so that's usually the case with Lee. I've never gone into well, I won't say never, I have actually, but it's very rare you go into a store and they're selling Lee and he's on the wall and they're, you know, these are $50 records, you know, and so to find them in thrifts and junks, those are like, that's just the rush of all of that. But like, comment, subscribe down below, share the video if you're so inclined. I appreciate everyone that tunes in and watches and interacts. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Everybody that I've got to know through these channels, check out the daily channel, Daily Records. I'm pointing upwards because the link is in my description box on the header of my channel. And subscribe to that channel, please. You know, the more the merrier. It's a different record every day, and they're usually about 5-minute videos. I try to keep them pretty short and go through the history of the album. But go check that channel out, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It is TommyBurton75. I usually show what I'm spinning on there, and you'll probably see some of these records later this evening as I listen to some. But in the meantime, I'll see you guys with another video in the very near future. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.